environmental quality. There's been a lot of concern about respirable crystalline silica. It's an issue that has a lot of importance, a lot of I've actually drafted the guidance information for the Michigan Concrete Association on respirable crystalline silica. We provided you a significant report from the Heartland Institute that shows that there is no measurable respirable crystalline silica that comes from this operation. Yes, crystalline silica is in the soil, but the way that it is aerosolized does not come from this type of operation. It comes from concrete cutting, road building, things of that nature. It is not something that comes from sand and gravel mining. And you already have information in your record, a fairly extensive report that details the fact that in most circumstances, the measurable amount of crystalline silica that was generated from the sand and gravel operation was no more than the background concentrations, which is basically background of just what naturally occurs, from people driving on roads.
What was the company?
I'm sorry?
Heartland.
Heartland.
Heartland?
Yeah. It's in
you have 2 or 3 handouts for that, Karen, by the way.
I know, but I'm trying to keep up with what he's saying.
Sure. As you know, you can tell by the concern of the citizenry here, we're providing a lot of information by the people who are going to be affected by this if it happens.
Sure.
And a lot of the information we get counters what you say.
Well, what I
want to ask you one question. Are you going to be pulverizing gravel out there?
There will be some crushing of rocks.
What does some mean?
It's
part of the daily operation?
No, sir. It's an occasional process that occurs when you get a coarse aggregate that is too large, once it's been screened out, then you would bring in equipment basically to crush some of the larger material. That is an entirely different and permitted process through the DEQ. They have a completely different, and we've provided you the permit information.
Does that emit a silica byproduct?
No. Silica is primarily a byproduct that occurs from the quartz content from
the sand.
From it, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, go ahead now.
Okay. And it can vary depending upon the type of sand that you're mining. Some of the information that we provided you is related to sand that's used in hydrofracturing operations, which is a heavy quartz material that comes from other areas. That is not the type of sand that we're going to be extracting from this facility.
As long as we're on silica, so that's going to be a big issue, and let's address it right now. Have you done a specific silica study on this property, or is the only thing that you've given us this generic information from Heartland?
Well, the information that you've been given is the best information that's out there that deals specifically with sand and gravel operations.
But not with this property, right?
No, well, how would this property be different from others?
You haven't done any sampling on this property to see what's there?
Yeah, we've provided you soil borings that demonstrate all the sand and gravel properties that are with respect to this.
And so one of the things we're going to want to get is a silica study, and you know what that is.
Sure.
On this particular property that deals with the specific components that are on this property and whether or not that's going to be an issue for this property.
Well, could you explain for me how this would be different? I mean, we're dealing.
So in other cases like this, we've seen experts who have provided silica studies for the individual piece of property that tell us there's not going to be a problem. We want to see that.
I would be interested in seeing it because I'm not aware of a single sand and gravel operation that produced a facility-specific silica study. But but we will do what we can to try to provide you sufficient information. As you know, our responsibility is to give you a record of competent evidence. We believe that something that's specific to sand and gravel mining operations generally is sufficient record evidence to support that element. But we'll certainly consider providing additional information in the form that you just articulated.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Karen.
Could we, as a planning commission, commission that study ourselves so that it's, I feel more comfortable if we ask for the study and we use the funds in the that he's put forward here to do that, so that it's an independent study. I'm not real comfortable with the study that they're paying somebody to do.
Put that, we'll address that at a later date, all right?
Okay?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, thank you, I appreciate that. And we have no quarrel with that whatsoever. The township wants to do its own study. What I would caution you about is the information, and we've asked under the Freedom of Information Act for all the information that's been provided by the public related to rust-burbling crystalline silica exposure. All of it, every single piece of it pertains to workplace exposures. And there's no question about the fact that workplace exposures are significant. If you're out there cutting concrete without personal protective equipment, that's a real problem. If you're on a construction site where you are exposed to dust from concrete dust, that's a huge problem. And that is why OSHA and MyOSHA have a specific enforcement prerogative that is brand new. It's only about a year old, that deals with those types of workplace exposures. But in this type of situation, the DEQ has indicated that these types of operations do not generate sufficient particulate to be of concern. Maybe, we don't trust the DEQ either, I don't know, but all I can tell you is that we provided you information from the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality.
Yes, you have, but like I said, we get counterfeit information too. Cases from 2006 and 2008 where people have done studies and it's been proven to be a carcinogenic type of a situation, and that's a real concern.
I completely agree.
So what we're trying to do by you making these presentations is when people start asking questions, maybe you'll save half the questions from being answered if you can explain the stuff that you're going to do to prevent these concerns to become a concern we have to address later.
Yes, sir, and that's what I'm trying to do. And what I'm encouraging you to do is to look at the other information you've been provided. We've provided information that's specific to sand and gravel extraction activities. The information you've been provided is almost universally related to workplace exposures. Nobody doubts the fact that silicosis is a concern, that there are other respirable diseases that occur from silica exposures. What I'm telling you is that all the data that's available, and a lot of it that we've provided you specifically says that in this type of operation, it does not occur at anything that is significantly above background concentrations. So, go ahead and move on, because spend all day with you. All right, the next thing that's required under the ordinance, names and addresses, obviously that's provided in the application. Legal description, that's in the application, it's also in the site plan. A description of method and operation of machinery and equipment to be used, that is detailed in the site plan. There's an inset that provides that, plus in the application itself, there's a detailed information about the process and the type of equipment. A statement as to the type of material to be excavated or deposited. We've already explained that on the application, it's sand and gravel. F, the proposed method of filling an excavation or means to be used to allow the reclamation of land. The reclamation process is set forth in one of the insets in the drawings. It shows how the area is going to be stabilized. It's going to be done in 40-acre units. We provided some pictures of some other extraction areas where
where you've cleaned up, where you left them in as near as you could to the state they were in when you started.
Yeah, and as you know, the township has specific engineering requirements with respect to contouring, et cetera, and the plans comply with that. So, state or county permits if applicable. We've basically informed you in the application about the other permits that are necessary and the ones that have already been issued. And then moving on from there, well, we already talked about the contouring requirements. As you can tell from the site plan, as far as the site plan requirements, you have some very detailed requirements related to the topographic information that's required, how it's taken, how it was measured. That is all part of the application, all part of the site plan. Areas of floodplains, there are no floodplains on the property, so that's in the ordinance, is something that has to be addressed. Trucks and truck traffic. We provided you a letter report from OHM. OHM is a very highly respected engineering and consulting company. They provided a summary report that indicates that the road base and the ability to support this type of traffic is, there's at least 300 feet of sight distance for all turns. It complies with the township's requirement that it be done on a two-way road. So there's an indication that there's not going to be any kind of significant issue. We're talking about only during the seasonal part of this place is only going to operate during the seasonal part of the year. And we're looking at 2 to 3 truck trips per hour. So that's as far as an average.
Wow.
That's okay. Setbacks.
Can we have some quiet, please? Can he finish his presentation so we can let you come up and tell us what you were concerned about, please?
Setbacks and slope requirements, as you'll tell, as you can see from the site plan, there's a minimum 75-foot setback requirement that's been complied with. Maximum allowable slope being vertical 1 to 3 horizontal, that's complied with. As far as noise, the general noise ordinance provisions of the ordinance apply, and that would certainly apply in this situation. But it's important to remember that once the excavation area is open, everything is underground. So the ability to hear it, the ability to see it is greatly attenuated. And we're required to maintain opacity measuring requirements that basically measure any kind of dust that comes off of the site. So we have to have perimeter monitors that tell us whether or not we have significant or any kind of concentrations of particulate that are leaving the site.
If I may, do you have to put them any set distance down the road, or is it just around the perimeter of where you're in the process of mining?
It's around the perimeter because the assumption is that if you don't have an opacity exceedance at the property boundary or at the period at the point of measurement, that's set.
Then there's no concern anywhere
Exactly,
else.
that's not going to get anywhere else. Let's see. As far as the site plan requirements, I think we've gone through those. Now let's talk a little bit about what the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act is. As your counsel, I'm sure will tell you that there was a fairly prominent case that came down from the Michigan Supreme Court several years ago called Silva versus A Township. Essentially, the fallout of that case resulted in a legislative amendment to the Zoning Enabling Act that said that for sand and gravel operations, we're going to have specific requirements, and if you meet those requirements, then there's a presumption under the law that there's going to be no serious consequences as a result of the opposition. Okay?
Isn't that very serious consequences?
Yes, no very
Very,
serious.
right?
Yes.
Very serious consequences.
No very serious consequences.
And we're really looking for a good definition for that. If you come up with it, I'd like you to share it with me.
Well, it's well, there have been some cases. There is some case law that helps provide some context for that. And really, what it is, it's a series of elements. It's kind of a laundry list of need it, got it, need it, got it. You know. So let's talk about the needs and got it's. First of all, is the relationship of extraction and associated activities with the existing land uses.
No.
Please, let the man finish. I want all the people here a chance to say something, and we keep interrupting him. And like Mr. Fahey said, we'll be here at ordering breakfast.
Okay. As we've already talked about, with respect to that element, we'll have the area will be completely screened by trees. It will have the 8-foot berm around it. If there's additional fencing, which was I think suggested by the zoning administrator, we're willing to talk about that. If you'd rather have the fencing than the berm, we're willing to do that. You know, we want this to be as unobtrusive as we can make it, considering what the fundamental operations are. So, number 2, impact on existing land uses. Really the same sort of issues And then you also have to consider the fact that, number one, this is not going to be a wet extraction location. Anything as far as dust is concerned, we're required to have a fugitive dust management plan that requires us to maintain a certain moisture content in anything that's mined and screened there. So there's a significant safeguard there. The DEQ controls all that. Somebody has a complaint, they can call the DEQ. The DEQ would be required under law to follow up on that. We want to run the best operation we can at this location. So with respect to some of the other elements, you already have the reports from OHM that talks about the fact that anything as far as there's really almost no hazardous substance use on this property. If anything needs to be utilized, it's required to be secondarily contained. What that means under the Part 22 groundwater protection rules that fall under the Part 31 of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act says that we have to make sure that any kind of container that's going to hold any quantity of or any significant quantity or any regulated quantity of any kind of hazardous substance has to have secondary containment, which means that if it comes out of its primary vessel, it's captured in a secondary vessel. Moving on from there, impact on property values in this into the property, always a concern. It's so much of a concern, we went and we engaged probably one of the most well-respected property appraisers in the state, Terry Etzel from Valbridge Appraisal. Terry has appraised everything from major golf courses to the Gary Steelworks in Gary, Indiana. They looked at, as you will tell from the report, it's extraordinarily detailed and robust results. And basically, they can find no significant impact to property values as a result of the program.
Do you live next to a gravel pit?
All I can tell you is that this is the data.
Please don't ask too many questions. Please?
This is what the record is. I don't know what else we could do to be able to provide anything that's more compelling than an appraisal that's specific to this property, specific to this area, that says that they can find no significant deviance from property values as a result of sand and gravel operations. Okay. Traffic safety, like I said, that's already been addressed in the OHM report. We've also agreed that we will, with the road commission, that if there's any impact, significant impact to the road, that Fisher will pay for that. If it needs to be maintained, if it needs to be graded, if it needs to be have dust suppression, et cetera, as a result of their operations, they're going to take care of that.
One second.
Yes.
Do we have a agreement between Fisher and the road commission in our file?
We do not, we certainly will ask them if they're willing to do it, but I think that they wanted to engage the township and find out what the township's additional concerns were beyond just the road commission's concerns. So we're happy to talk further. Vance, I think you've spoken to the road commission about that?
Yeah.
Okay, and why don't you tell them what they...
Have you met with, who?
Leaf
Deepak?
yes.
I met with him yesterday, and he gave me the impression that your company has made some kind of a commitment to anything happens to that road beyond normal wear, you're gonna repair it? Have you had a conversation like that with him?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Whether we repaired it, it would be under the jurisdiction of the road commission.
Right.
We can't just go out there with
No,
It's gotta be-
you're gonna make sure through all the efforts you can have that they'll be supplied with enough information and funds to keep that road in good repair.
That's correct, and we'll put a bond up. It'll be arrangements that the township will participate in order to have assurance back to the township that you're secure that you will experience no additional cost to maintain that road because of that operation.
Yesterday, he gave me an impression that you'd almost signed some kind of an agreement with him. Is that?
We have a verbal understanding, but it didn't make any sense to sign something without having the township say, yeah, that is something that we would buy into, that we approve of that. We would like the township to participate in that too.
In what capacity?
In the capacity of that you approve of the agreement that